Hi, everybody. I hope that you're all well. We would like to thank the Auditive Forum for accepting our abstract. We are a research team at the University of Crete and region of Crete, and we are members of the Moving Project. So we will try to present our work with the Carob floor value chain in Rethymno. So this is our area where we focus. So the value chain lies mainly between the two main solid massifs of Crete, Mount Ptiloritis and the White Mountains. So we would like to discuss a bit the historical context of carob production. It was known as the chocolate of the poor, especially during the World War II. It saved people's lives due to its nutraceutical qualities. But we observed that after that, there was a decline in the carob pod production for various reasons, mainly because of harvesting abandonment, the destruction of carob trees for firewood, and other land use changes. However, in the last 5 years, we observed that the carob floor value chain has been valorized, and there are more and more people, scientists, and producers that are engaging in the value chain. So in this presentation, we will try to use a variety of workshop, statistical, interview, and archival data in order to discuss the results of our work as members of the Moving Project. Our participants have been mainly producers, scientists, businessmen, and like all the local community that engages in the carob production. So we try to visually portray the value chain. You can see that 80 to 90% of the carob production pertains to pulps, and only 10 to 20% has to do with the seeds. You can see that it's a rather long value chain. The carob is used in many industries, like the food industry, pharmaceutical industry, textile industry, and there are many products that use carob. We have tried to focus on the competitive value chains, the carob floor and the animal fodder. I think that it's a topic of high interest for the local community, how these value chains are really competitive. So some things about climate crisis and carob in Crete. There are studies that show that the Mediterranean region and Crete, they are particularly vulnerable, and that in the short-term future, they are going to suffer from decreasing water reserves, more frequent meteorological and hydrological droughts, and less frost. So we believe that carob floor and carob in general, they have some specific advantages, but also some downsides. The advantages are that carob trees are resilient, hardy, grow in poor soils, and require almost no care. And they are very suitable for the part-time farming practices of smallholders who want to work in the tourism industry over the summer months. But there are also some downsides, like the fact that pod yields are uneven. So producers are uncertain about the economic yields, which are tied to the price of carob seeds and are exported and processed abroad. There is also an inconsistency in declining yields. The demographic changes is a negative driver in these villages, and also a constant complaint of our participants was that there is a loss of knowledge and that there are not many young people who are willing to work as farmers. Carob is also an excellent alternative to act on climate change. According to a study, carob trees absorb much of carbon high emissions, and carob cultivation has a high environmental relevance because it presents a high fixation of carbon dioxide and contributes to climate change mitigation. So we try to construct these two diagrams based on what our participants believe. You can see that the most important driver of change for the carob production in this region is the demographic changes that have affected and continue to affect the value chain, along, of course, with the land use change that has taken place, mainly in favor of the olive tree cultivation. The climate change drivers follow, although most of the participants do not seem to have a clear perception of their importance. And on figure 2, you can see that the demographic changes, the land use change, and the temperature have been indicated as the drivers, with a sharp increase in the last 20 years. Wildfires also are considered non-existent in the region. So we also constructed this diagram trying to present the different stages of the value chain: production, processing, distribution, marketing, and consumption. And you can see the environmental values at the bottom of the diagram. So regarding production, as we said, there is high fixation of carbon node emissions, climate change mitigation. They mitigate soil erosion and they are beneficial for biodiversity in the region. But there is need for policy regarding crop production in agro-silvo-pastoral systems. And also in all the other stages, we can see the environmental values, like, for example, in distribution and marketing, there is the problem of food transport that accounts for almost 4% of food-related greenhouse emissions. And in the consumption stage, we know that food consumption is driver for environmental pressure. So regarding the governance approaches, we know that there are, based on what participants believe, they think that new governance structures are required with regard to the need for cloning and breeding programs, the reduction of vegetative period, and the increase of pod and seed yield. New governance planning that will incentivize young farmers to engage in carob production are needed. This was the major problem that the participants reported. The maintenance of agroforest systems and the creation of new ones is considered important for maintaining the good condition of the soils, biodiversity, and the landscape, as well as ensuring financial support for the rural population that practices such activities. Strengthening the measure of integration of third country nationals into the MRL is an indirect way of addressing the demographic changes, which is the first important driver of change for the value chain. The lack of know-how was also repeatedly reported as the major problem for producers and local businesses. Supporting the adaptation and modernization of education, training, and employment system to assist the youth and young people in the region. The strategic planning of the region of Crete, 2020 to 2023, includes the strengthening of lifelong learning with targeted lifelong learning programs for all age groups in cutting-edge topics like climate change and circular economy. And the inclusion of corresponding topics in formal and non-formal education is also necessary. Last but not least, the performance of the VSA would be more effective if policies that empower agricultural directorates, agronomists, and farming cooperatives were developed and implemented. This is a huge problem for the whole country and for Crete in general, the lack of collectivity that support the rights of farmers. Greater autonomy to regional policies should be given, so that the region can design, implement, and finance in order to support the value chain in specific actions. As a team, we realized that there is an astonishing lack of data regarding carob production, number of producers, etc. Institutions that will collect and record this data are urgently required. A reforestation effort was implemented in order to increase the wealth of the villages in the MRL and develop them on site. Farmers who took part in the afforestation of agricultural land program that was implemented many years ago in 1996 declared that the program was administered poorly. So the agribusinesses complain that funding or loans for new equipment is extremely difficult to attain. As researchers, we realized there is an astonishing lack of data, as we said before, regarding carob productivity. Bolstering guidance, support, and availability of directors and extension officers, including record-keeping and research initiatives that can assist farmers and agribusinesses, are much needed. Native carobs grow in predominantly forest and grassland ecosystems of Crete, with proven abilities to adapt to climate fluctuations and unchanged quality characteristics. However, the composition of the vegetation is related to the ownership regime, and this should be changed, as this results in the deforestation or removal of forest trees, in order to avoid the claiming of these lands by the state. So this was our presentation. Thank you very much